All righty, it is 3 o'clock. Welcome to Replenish the Atmosphere of Discovery, where we discover the master's plan. So today's session is on impatience. Today's session is on impatience. Okay, so impatience is irritability with anything or anyone who gets in your way or causes delay in you getting what you want. Okay, impatience is irritability with anything or anyone that gets in your way or causes delay in you getting what you want. So you are quickly or easily provoked into frustration and anger because you're not in control of when a desired result happens. Okay, when you are not in control of when your desired result happens, it can cause you to be easily provoked into frustration and anger. Okay, so I know a lot of times we think, oh, I'm impatient because I just can't wait, right? No, sometimes the reason that you cannot wait is because you're not in control and you want to control when, right? When you get what you want. So impatience is closely related with timing. Impatience is closely related with timing, okay? Your lack of control of when things will happen is rooted in fear or selfishness, right? Your lack of control of knowing when or you having the ability to determine when things will happen, it is rooted in fear or selfishness, okay? And it's not impatience is not always a bad thing. But when you begin to be impulsive in your thinking and your mind begins racing, your heart begins racing, your temper begins to flare up, you have to recognize that these are signals that your body is giving you that you're getting ready to go into rage, that you're getting ready to go into anger, right? Being quick-tempered and enraged because you cannot have your way is self-fueling. It can take over your will, okay? And that means you will start behaving erratic. That means you will start becoming irrational, right? And you can become delusional and leave yourself open to serious, mental health issues, right? When that begins to spiral out of control. And so any emotion that fuels itself is dangerous to your mind, right? Any emotion that fuels itself is dangerous to your mind. And it's simply because it's rooted in the human will. Your emotions is in your soul. It's rooted in the human will. And what you allow to drive your willpower will determine your course of life. It will determine your success and your failures, and it will determine where your reality is, right? So you don't want something driving your willpower into another reality, okay? And that means you begin to operate in a world that isn't real. But you were driven there by your uncontrolled emotions, okay? When you are overeager and intolerant, it is not a state of peace where you can think clearly and focus. When you are overeager and intolerant, that is not a state of peace where you can think clearly and focus. And that makes it easier for you to be driven into that alternate state of consciousness. Okay. So even if you are someone that haven't been traumatized, your lack of peace and your uncontrolled emotions can result in the same mental and emotional conditions as someone who has been traumatized. Okay. You not having the ability to control your emotions, right? So the common message in the last few sessions is maintaining that balance within you, right? We do all of the outward stuff to make sure we look good outwardly, to make sure our body is good. But we want to start maintaining and having that balance within us, okay? Not allowing yourself to think, feel, or be a way that you don't desire to be. If you are thinking or feeling or becoming something that you do not want to be, you have to do something about it. You can do all the self-help things. You can know the top psychiatrists and psychologists, but until you make a decision to do something, there will not be any change, okay? So you have to regulate and govern yourself, or allow God to until you have enough of him in you in order for you to do it yourself. Okay. So his peace, the peace of God, provides an awareness and access to the necessary adjustments that we need to make to regulate that, right? It gives us soundness of mind to remain focused and think the way we should in spite of what the time is saying, right? Because remember, I told you, impatience has to do with timing, okay? Time can speak to your impatience or it can speak to your peace, okay? If it's speaking to your impatience, time is telling you to hurry up. If it's speaking to your peace, it's saying be still. And not be still as in don't do anything, but be still as in this is in check. I have control over whether I get overwhelmed or not, right? So time is a infinite continuing process that causes us to be annoyed at delays and setbacks, right? And so time itself is infinite. However, the time that you have for any given appointment, any given arrangement, or any type of plan is not, right? So focusing on how much time is left or how much time has passed can cause you to be in bondage to a process, right? And you have to make sure that you're not bound to the process, but you are using the process to get you to where you should be, right? And when I say where you should be, I mean where you should be, right? I'm referring to your predetermined place in history, in present time, and for your future, not someone else's place. And so we often get impatient because we're peering into other people's places, right? Other people's destination. Okay. And these temptations to choose their place instead of your place, these temptations can be implied or desired. So you see someone somewhere you want to be and you desire it. Or someone else can imply to you, they can say, I think you should be where this person is, right? So those temptations to choose where other people are can be implied or desired. Sometimes people can imply that you should be at a certain point because of society, because of culture, because of community, right? And those implications can become an idol to you. Okay? That means you're putting their standards and their solutions above God's predestined destination for you, right? And that increase in burdens causes you to become overwhelmed because you're trying to bear burdens of somebody else's implications, of somebody else's expectations, because they saw where someone else was in 5 years. So they put that burden on you that you need to be here in 5 years, even though this is not even the place that God designed for you to be, right? And so it causes restlessness in you, right? And later causes you to be unstable because you're constantly trying to get to this place that culture says you should be, or society says you should be, right? And so you're trying to reach someone else's perceived position for you, okay? And moral restlessness causes anxiety because you're having to deal with decisions that you have to make when both choices seems right. So it's not necessarily that what people are saying is wrong, right? It could be something that's right. They want the best for you, but it's not what is designed for you, okay? You have moral obligations to your family, to your friends, to your job, but you also have a moral obligation to yourself to be who God has created you to be, regardless of everybody else's standard for you. Okay. And like I said, what they want for you can come from a good place, and what they want from you can be a good thing, but is it your good thing? Is it the thing for you? Right. You can begin to have a guilty conscience for not being able to save everyone or take care of everyone, right? And that can cause you to be stressed, right? And a lot of your impatience can be rooted in someone else's length of time here on earth, right? It can be rooted in the time that somebody else has a bill to be paid. It can be rooted in whatever time sensitive thing that someone else has before something negative happens to them, right? And so it's morally good to desire to help other people. But when that begins to overwhelm you and cause anger because it's not happening how quickly you want it to, you have to assess if you are part of the problem or the solution. Okay. And I mean, literally taking a moment and see if this was your burden to take, right? If it's causing you this much anger, this much distress, you may be inserting yourself into situations that's not your business, right? So sometimes you're impatient because you're not minding your own business, okay? Sometimes your business is other people, right? Sometimes you are sent to help other people. And other times people will force you into their business, right? And it misaligns you and gets you out of position, and it gets you away from purpose. Okay. And as harsh as it may sound, these people, sometimes you have to let them go. You have to let them go. You have to begin to grieve those friendships and those relationships and let them go, right? Who you thought you were to them and who you thought they were to you may not be in God's plan for you, right? And so we keep going back to discovering God's plan, right, for who we are supposed to be. Okay, so let's go a step further. At some point, you have to grieve who you thought you would be, right? What you thought you would have, if it isn't God's purpose or plan for you. Okay, that's why it's important to know His will for our lives. If you're not sure of His will and your impatience is causing you to feel overwhelmed or unstable, let it go anyway, grieve it anyway. It'll make it that much better if He gives it to you when you didn't expect it, right? So if that timing is starting to overwhelm you, let it go. Unless you know that's God's plans, keep that expectation, but it should not be overwhelming you, okay? And so the things that are not God's plan for you, you have to properly grieve. Grieve those expectations and those ideas that were not coming from the right place, right? Sometimes they come from other people, those expectations you have, okay? Being impatient can motivate you. Sometimes that impatience is a sense of motivation, or it can increase the frustration and the anger, right? Not being willing to wait for what is in your control without bending the will of others can be a motivator. Notice I said without bending someone else's will, right? So when others have a part in causing that delay for you, that impatience can lead to envy, jealousy, resentment, even bitterness, right? And envy is a strong desire for what someone has. And if you are not careful, it can create a miserable character trait that takes joy in somebody else's pain or somebody else's suffering or misery, right? Holding grudges can also make you an envious person because you seek revenge for an offense. So when something bad happens to cause harm to that person, right, you feel a sense of relief or gladness that your offense have been avenged, right? So even holding grudges can cause you to be envious. And envy is not the same as jealousy, even though they both involve other people having what you want, right? Jealousy comes from being impatient because of the threat or fear of someone getting what you deemed as yours, or maybe they get something quicker than you did, okay? Envy, however, can be mixed with admiration, while jealousy stirs up resentment. Okay, so someone can be envious of what you have, but they also admire you. Okay, resentment shows up when there has been an injury to you where you feel, not that it's true, but you feel wronged, right? So you feel robbed of time or opportunities. So impatience can make you resentful. Bitterness can be the same as resentment, except I believe that bitterness root is more in disappointment and anger. Okay. Impatience can cause the bitter roots of envy, jealousy, and resentment, which will cloud your judgment and take a lot of time out of your life, right? These feelings and emotions, if you do not manage them well, if you do not manage them properly, it will affect your health, not just mental and emotional, but your physical health as well. Okay. A sound heart is life to you. It is healthy because your emotions are under control. Okay. All of those other feelings that impatience may cause are rottenness to your bones. It affects your soul. It causes disease in your mind and in your will. Okay. So you want to make sure that your impatience is not causing envy, jealousy, bitterness, and resentment. Okay. Impatient can lead to responses and reactions that you wouldn't have done had you not allowed your soundness of mind to be affected. Okay. If you had not allowed your peace to be disturbed, you would not have responded that way. Right. And so we want to be careful that we are not reacting out of impatience, because when you truly trust the will of God, you know the wait is intentional. Okay. So manage your time while you wait. Don't waste the time that you're waiting. Make the most of that wait. Okay. Self-regulation allows you to observe the time, but remain focused by giving attention to what's happening in that immediate moment. Okay. So what do you do, or what can you do while you're waiting? What can you accomplish while you wait? What can you learn? What can you grow while you're waiting? What can you create? What can you pursue? What can you conquer while you wait? Right? Work the wait. Work the wait. Okay? Don't let the wait work you into weariness and mental anguish. Work the wait. Okay? And so we get impatient often when justice and vengeance is not served immediately, when the answers to prayers and problems and the answers for other people don't come when we want them to, right? Release that control. Stop idolizing your ability to affect timing, because that's what we do. Most of that ends in rebellion and witchcraft. Yes, even for believers, right? Working your spells and your seduction to get what you want when the delay was intentional. It was supposed to be delayed. The delay was so that you could be fully delivered. The delay was so that you could be fully prepared. The delay was so that you could be fully operating in your purpose, right? So accept delay when it is intentional for your benefit. And like I said, when you truly trust God, you know that the wait is intentional. Okay. And so impatience is not the only thing that is based off the need for an immediate outcome or an immediate response or reward. Okay. Because you begin to be so focused on timing and getting things done quickly, you often will procrastinate and put off the things that require more work or that require more thought, more input, right? So you will most likely put off the important things for your instant gratification, right? So this is not setting a healthy foundation, because sometimes what you sacrifice for that instant gratification leads you into addictive behaviors, right? It leads to overindulgence, right? That lack of self-control, because you want to do the things that give you that instant success, that instant gratification, instead of doing the things that might take a little more time, but it's more long lasting, right? Become a temperate person by working on acceptance and tolerance of time. You have to accept the time that you're in. Accept the time that you have. Respect time and work with it, right? Make the most out of your wait, and don't allow impatience to drive you to where your life was never meant to go. And we've all done that. We've all had a moment where we did not want to wait. So we acted, that delay was intentional, but we didn't understand it. And we went and did what we wanted to do, and we had to suffer the consequences for that. And it caused our life to be deterred, right? And so a lot of times we focus more on past moments and the moments we want to feel in the future instead of the moment right now. Like, what are you doing right now while you're waiting for your time, right? While you're waiting for your appointment. If this waiting is overwhelming you, then you may be disregarding your present time. You might be wasting time in the present, right? Because you're more focused on the lost moments or the moments that haven't happened yet. And you got to make sure that even though you're looking to your future, that you are not wasting time in the present, right? You want to work the wait. So that concludes our session for today. I hope that you learned the reason for a lot of your impatience is directly related to time, is directly related to control. Okay, we want stuff when we want it, and we don't stop to think that the delay is intentional.